Welcome to the Heresite webinar series. I think this is the third one that we've done. We did a couple last year as well. All previous webinars are hosted on Heresite.com, so we encourage you to check those out under our webinar recordings. If you didn't get a chance to attend the previous webinars, there's really some great information there. And this webinar will also be hosted there as well, so you can go back and reference it. Today's topic, the need for higher performing HVAC coatings in 2024 and beyond. On behalf of Heresite, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got folks from all over the world, and we're very appreciative for taking the time today and excited to have you with us. A couple of introductions. Dan Lusk, a sales manager for Heresite, will be our presenter today. I think most of you probably chatted with Dan at some point. He's joined by Kayla Aldrich, sales and marketing manager for Heresite. She'll be here to answer any questions and basically keep Dan on track. So before we get going, some housekeeping items. We just ask you to mute your microphone and turn off your camera. It'll probably improve your sound quality just because we've got a lot of people on the call. As I mentioned, the webinar will be recorded, and we will send a copy to all participants so you can share it with your teams. As far as questions, we ask that we use the chat feature. There's a little box on the lower right-hand corner to submit questions. We will answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. Also, Dan's contact information will be shared at the end of the presentation, so feel free to reach out to Dan directly with any specific questions. Presentations should probably last 30 minutes, and then we'll follow that with a Q&A section. So without any further delay, I'll turn the presentation over to Dan.
Hey, Jeff, thank you. Like Jeff said, I'm the sales manager at Heresite. I'm an old guy. I've been in the paint business, the coatings business over 40 years. And HVAC coatings in particular the last 5 years. Again, this is our third webinar, and we put this one together because we think that there are some things happening out there with relation to the corrosion of HVAC units throughout the world that are important. So a little bit about us really quickly for anybody new on here. Heresite was founded in 1935 as a company specializing in phenolic resins. They were relatively new at that point in the world. In the 1960s, we invented the process of coating HVAC coils with a thin film, high performance coating. We have the most extensive test data in the industry by far. We've been doing it longer than anybody out there. And so we're really recognized as the performance leader in the HVAC coatings industry. So when people want the best, they come to us for the most difficult environments. So what I hope to do today is to offer information on changes that we're seeing around the world that are impacting HVAC coils and really the need for higher performing products, coatings on them, and discuss why offering coil protection, if you've not done it in the past, is more important than ever. So this is what we do every day. We lay awake at night looking at the ceiling, thinking, how can we extend the life of heat exchangers? So what we do is we fight corrosion, both from salt air and chemical exposure, and it's about increasing the long-term efficiency of the unit to make it last longer. Give customers a better return on their investment. So these coatings are really unique. Again, I've been in the paint business, coatings business for over 40 years. And so when I talk to others in the industry and I tell them about our coatings, it's pretty impressive. So they have to adhere to bare metal, usually copper and aluminum. It's a very thin film, 1 to 1.5 mils or 25 to 37 microns. Conventional paints go on 4 to 7 mils, so this is much thinner. And they need to go on very thin so they do not interfere with heat transfer, okay? So there's less than 1% heat transfer loss when an HVAC coating from Heresite goes on your coil. We need to maximize the corrosion resistance and minimize the heat transfer loss, and again, extend the life of HVAC units. So really, these coatings have to do something pretty amazing in all different types of environments. marine and coastal corrosives, chemicals, and different types of atmospheres. In humidity, very dry, immersion of the metal, and really temperature extremes. And we really get them all over the world. Our coatings are put on, so they really go to the test. So our tagline is defining performance in every environment. We're all about performance. That's what our brand is about. And we have a long history, 60 years working with OEMs and specs and stuff in the marketplace. We've got extensive test data. We have some pretty impressive in-house testing equipment with, experienced coatings chemists who have a lot of experience in the industry, and extensive data on new generation products. And we'll talk a little bit about our new platform from 7 to 5 years ago. So when people want the best, they reach out to Heresite. So because we're the performance leader, we really have unique access to what's going on in markets throughout the world. Our applicators, whether they're OEM or paint company applicators, really have their finger on the pulse and understand what's going on out there. So in communicating with them and seeing what's going on out there, we thought that this webinar was important. So again, two categories, two types of environments we deal with, mostly what we would call industrial or chemical, and also commercial or coastal areas. So both salt air and chemical environments. And I think more and more we're seeing the combination of both of those. And it's about extending the life of the unit and really fighting corrosion. We have two general coatings categories that we're going to talk about and that we work in. We don't have a lot of products. And the first one are baked coatings. These are the highest performing coatings in the world. When it comes to HVAC coatings, they're for the most difficult, either offshore C5 environments or severe chemical environments. Our baked finish is recognized as the quality leader and the performance leader in the world. We also have air dry coatings. When they don't have the opportunity to access to an oven and an application method, many times people fall back to an air dry coating. These are mostly used in coastal marine environments, and they're for mild to medium chemical environments. So when you go from a baked coating to an air dry coating, there is a drop in performance. So when it comes to baked coating, our most popular product and what we've known for internationally is our P413 baked phenolic coatings. Phenolic coatings are a very dense closed coat film, so they're very good in chemical and acid resistance. They've been around a long time, but they're still the leader in performance for a liquid coating. So we have the most extensive test data in the industry with our product. It's over 20,000 salt spray hours with the ASTM B117 test. And it passes UV exposure, cyclical testing. If you look on the technical data sheet for this product, there's 20 different tests that are the results of them are on the front page of the test. And we also have a chemical resistance guide that has hundreds of chemicals that have been tested on the P413, and both the TDS and the chemical resistance guide are available on our website. So another product we've had that we've been around for many years is our air dry phenolic coating. So back in the day, it was an innovative coating, but today it's a bit of old technology. Air dry coatings, because they're easier to apply and affordable, they offered just good enough protection, I would call it, over the years. So this is a solvent-based air dry phenolic. It was innovative in its time again, but now there are higher performing coatings that we're suggesting people go to. And with skyrocketing oil-related raw material costs, the prices increased significantly over the last few years. So it achieves 2,000 hours for the B117 salt spray test. But most of our customers have moved over to our Hair Shield platform. Our Hair Shield platform, our Hair Shield technology, we started developing that 7 years ago. It's been in the market for 5 years. It's an innovative acrylic resin, which is water-based, low VOC with excellent corrosion resistance. It's UV resistant and has really superior adhesion to bare metal, along with 15,000 salt spray hours. So the VR514, I told you, is at 2,000 salt spray hours. This is at 15,000 salt spray hours. I don't know of another water-based air dry product for coils that achieves that amount of hours. So this is the performance leader in spray applied air dry coatings. Again, it's not P413, but it ranks very good or excellent in all categories. So if you go to the back page of the TDS, an added bonus that we got with this product that we really didn't know we were getting is excellent chemical resistance. This is the highest performing water-based HVAC product, but also it has tremendous chemical resistance. So we say it's for mild or medium environments. It passes cyclical testing, and again, 15,000 salt spray hours. So on all these chemical tests you see here, ranks very good or excellent, and there are a lot of acids on here. So I think this chemical resistance, when we start to talk about changing environments, is one of the key reasons that this coating is doing so well. So the world is changing. And we've really seen significant changes over the last 3 to 4 years, and in particular, the last 2 years, really 18 months. Indoor climate control, using HVAC equipment and buying HVAC equipment is more and more expensive. So people want a better return on their investment. Demand for sustainable products continues to increase. It's very important to people depending on what part of the world you're in. More and more people are moving to coastal areas, so there's more coils that are put in salt air environments and chemical environments. And environments are changing, which we'll talk about. So all of these things are driving the need for higher performing coatings. So also the consumer's changing. Consumers today want choices. Go into any store and look at the candy aisle, and you see various brands with multiple different products that they're trying to offer, because this is what the consumer wants. They're more demanding when they're spending the kind of money they need to spend on upgrading their home or their place of business, or business people in manufacturing. They want it to last long and they want it to be efficient. So ROI is more important than it's ever been. And what we're finding is when given the option, more and more consumers, they're going to choose a coating to extend the life of the unit. So we're going into areas where there are people that didn't know that that was an option. And when they hear about it, they invest in it more and more. We just had a conference call with some of our applicators in Europe, and they say the same thing. More and more people want coatings, and it's driving the need for high performance coatings. Demand for sustainability, like I mentioned, is more and more important. So the need for environmentally friendly, higher performing products and coatings is increasing. All of our work over the last 7 years has been on water-based low VOC coatings. They're environmentally friendly and more energy efficient. And a lot of this is technology driven because of various things going on with data centers and other ways to manage data internationally. So this is driving the need for higher performing water-based coatings. But the most important thing I want to talk to you about and share with you and spend some time on are changes that are happening in the environments throughout the world and how they're impacting HVAC. And we've really seen it over the last 2 years. and we've seen accelerated corrosion. So things are corroding faster than they did in the past. Now, this is mostly in salt air markets and environments, but I think we're seeing chemicals in those environments. So some of the markets are that we're seeing, the most of this is Southeast Asia, in the Middle East, areas in Europe, and in the US. And most of these are coastal environments. So we're seeing performance issues with a number of different types of coatings. These are our competitors out there. There are ultra thin film coatings that I'll talk about. We get to some pictures. What I would call economical coatings. Don't like the word, use the word cheap, but economical coatings, and then off the shelf coatings. I describe coatings that are made for other industries and for other uses. And a company will go and take that coating and buy it from a third-party supplier and offer it as a solution for HVAC coatings. And they're not working like they used to. So what I'm going to share with you is it's really anecdotal evidence. But here's where it comes from. The observations that we're seeing, because more and more people are reaching out to us and asking for input on performance issues that they're having. In one market, for instance, there's 3 different competitive coating manufacturers that are having this problem, okay, of things corroding faster than they were in the past. And so they're looking for alternative. What used to work isn't necessarily working anymore. So I've been out on projects in different parts of the world, looking at what's going on. We've acquired information about the environment, did tests on the coils, taken samples, tests on the substrate. Even ambient air tests have been done in a particular area to check to see if there's anything going on in the air that can be detected. So we can't find any conclusive cause of why this is happening, but we see it happening, and we see it happening all over the world. And it's clear to us in our HVAC applicators that there's something going on. One of an OEM in a part of the world that does not use our coating. There was an engineer in a meeting with, and he was talking about the coating that they use, and his comment was, something has changed in the atmosphere. I don't know what that is. We've tried everything to find out what it is, but there are changes going on and that have happened. So what we've done is we've asked people and reached out that have reached out to us and asked for information, for data, anything that they can give us. And some of the jobs that I've looked at, some of the projects I've been on, they brought me up there when it wasn't even our product. So I've asked for pictures, anything I can get, so that I can share this and we can have information on what's going on throughout the world. So I've gotten some photos that I'm going to share with you. People don't like to share this stuff, so I can't let them out for everybody. But I'm really thankful for some of our partners internationally that have really worked hard to get this information. Some of them are probably on the phone today. So here's a few photos. The photos on this first slide, these are from 2 different countries. This is an ultra thin film coating, and it's made really thin so that you can flow coat it to get the paint into the inner parts of the coil. But in order to get this to happen, they have to pull the solids out of the formula and out of the material, and it really impacts performance. So we've been testing coatings like this for years. They just don't perform very well. We're developing a flow coat product, but we can't go down the same path they did because it doesn't meet our performance standards. So most of these products come from Australia, but you can see in these pictures where you see the light colors on there, that's corrosion on aluminum. And I'll go into more detail on that on the next slide. So these are photos where another competitor has another one of our competitors' coating has been applied. And the one on the left is from less than a year. And I just want to point out, you see the white areas on that coil. That's what rust looks like on aluminum. So it's aluminum oxide. When it starts to corrode, that's what it looks like. So the corrosion begins underneath the paint because the paint can no longer protect the metal. And then the paint expands in what's called the volcano effect, and it pushes the paint off. So you'll see paint chips. And people think there's something wrong with the adhesion of the paint that went on. And it's not really that. It's that corrosion is happening and it's pushing the paint off. The one on the right, that shows what aluminum fins look like when they deteriorate. They just disintegrate, and that's opening up the bottom of a unit, and you see all that gray dust on the ground. That used to be aluminum coils, aluminum fins. So again, this was put on, and I believe they said this is less than 2 years old, which is significant. So these are from 2 coastal areas on different continents. This shows 2 different units that were coated with a clear coating. So when you put a clear coating on, it doesn't even look like you put something on there. I don't get that. Again, the one I previously showed you has a tracer of a blue color in it or a green color in it. But you can see on these that the corrosion has happened. Again, this is all within the first 2 years of it being out in the field and in use. The one on the right, our certified applicator in South Carolina sent me that photo. He previously used a competitive clear finish, and then switched to our Hair Shield product. And that corrosion started within 6 months, although I believe this unit's about 3 years old. But he said within 6 months, the corrosion was pretty heavy on it. So here are a few more photos showing corrosion. And again, these are air dry products, and they're pictures and situations where mostly OEM coil manufacturers have reached out to us and said, what we're doing now isn't working anymore. If you go to an old coil that's been out there for many years, you'll see this type of corrosion. So it's not uncommon. What is uncommon and what's happening is that it's happening quicker than it did before. Again, most of the stuff I showed you, it's air dry products, and it's from OEMs throughout the world who make coils, and they apply the coating in the manufacturing process. After the coil is manufactured, it's clean, and then a coating's put on there because their market, pretty much everything that they coat is in a difficult environment. The last slide with photos on it I'll show you is a baked finish. Our competitor, there's one main competitor that competes with our P413, and they brag about their application process and not performance. And we see regularly how in the most difficult environments, P413 outperforms it. So what's the answer? You know, with all this going on out there, how are we reacting to it? And what do you need to consider when you recommend or apply or purchase a coil? And that is, you need to start putting on specifying superior performance coatings. Those coatings that are made for coils, they're not off the shelf coatings. Those that have extensive lab testing, real world testing over the years. So you've got some history that shows longevity, and that's been put in multiple atmospheres. The less expensive, the thin film, the clear coatings, they're not working in many of these environments anymore. So we think that we're positioned really well for the most difficult environments. It's our P413. People are turning to this finish in this application process in markets where it's never been offered before. That air dry products were good enough, but now people are investing in ovens and flow coat processes because other air dry products are not performing. And we've got a few customers I know that are on the phone here that have made big investments, and they're going to various industries and offering it to their customers where they didn't before. Our Hair Shield WB506, it's been in the market for 5 years. Literally, we haven't found a job where it's started to corrode yet. These photos are photos I took in the Middle East. It was up on a roof where there was another coil, another heat exchanger on the roof that was peeling. And this is Hair Shield that's been on there for 2 years. The one thing I did notice, and you'll see it on the picture left, it was really dirty. So I asked one of the maintenance guys to do the cleaning. You can see his arm there. So he took one of the coils that was easier to get to and cleaned it. And it's really difficult to see with this picture, but it looks great. That dust, that tan dust that's on there is off, and it's been cleaned. And you can see how great the Hair Shield Gray looks. So it's performing great. So we're positioned really well moving forward. Other tests we've got really quickly. This is one in the Ocean Reef Resort in Vero Beach, Florida. You'll see the picture on the far right that there's some rust going on that band that's hooked the compressor. Paint can't get in there, so it's not protected, but it shows us if the coil was not protected, what would be happening to it, the rust that's going on. So you can look at the coil in those areas that have been painted, and they're doing very well. And this is now over 4 years that it's been on there. They would have replaced that coil in the past, but they're not. Now that we're using the Hair Shield. This is another project, a test that we have going on. And this is pre-coated fins, Ozchem, which is one of these translucent ultra thin coatings, and Hair Shield. And this is in a short period of time. This is within 9 months. You can see the corrosion that's happening with the two on the left, and Hair Shield looks great. So takeaways from this are, again, we're saying you need to consider using higher performing HVAC coatings. And it's due to 3 main things: the escalating costs of HVAC units. It's really increasing demand for higher performing, protective coatings. People want a better return on their investment. What I just talked about, changing coastal and chemical environments, is driving demand for high performing HVAC coatings. We have a number of OEM coil manufacturers that have reached out to us in the last few years in many different markets that are looking for options because what they used in the past isn't working anymore. And the other thing is, when offered the option of coating a heat exchanger, more and more customers choose a high performance HVAC coating to extend the life of their investment. So if you're not offering it now, or you're not offering it to all your customers, I suggest that you do, because more and more people are taking advantage of it. We think we're positioned really well, being the quality leader. It's proven out with us because of the amount of demand that we have coming toward us, the amount of questions that keep coming, the new markets we're in. And that's with both our Hair Shield spray applied air dry coating and our P413 baked phenolic epoxy. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Great presentation and some really insightful information. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat feature on the right. It's the little box right next to the little people icon on the bottom, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Jeff, this was such a great presentation that nobody has any questions.
Exactly.
How much is the 5-gallon fill?
5-gallon pail of the hair
or
shield product.
a gallon, yeah, whatever you sell it in.
The hair shield.
My name is Cal. I'm from Hawaii. I'm a quarter here.
I can send you an email with information on it.
Okay.
If that works.
Okay.
So if you would send that in,
Yeah.
your email address.
Okay, Dan. I'm gonna try a gallon or so, and then we'll see.
Great.
You remember Dan from International AC Coating in Hawaii?
Yes.
It's Dan and I that was coating in Hawaii, and then he used to do the bake in Hawaii. Remember?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Terrific. Great.
So we're trying to, I'm gonna try and do a gallon of that.
Great. Yeah, we'll get back to you if you'd send in your email address.
Okay.
I'll send you information on a tech data sheet, pricing, and all that.
Okay. Awesome.
So Brian asked, what's the cleaning process for WB506? So we have a number of applicators that use different processes for cleaning. For those that cannot dispose of water, taking acetone and spraying it with acetone will take all the grease and anything that's been done in manufacturing. Our tests show us also that using a mild base solution, base cleaner with a high pressure, hot water power washer, referred to as a hot C in the US, is another great way to clean it. But as hot a water as you can use with an mild alkaline cleaner works really well.
How many locations do we have in the US?
Well, we have applicators of P413. We have 5 in the US, 1 in Canada, and we have them throughout the world. On our website, there's a tab at the top that says certified applicators. For our air dry coatings, we have a number of HVAC contractors that use it all over the country, mostly in coastal areas in the Southeast. But also on that tab, you can find what I call coastal sprayers that spray our hair shield. And a lot of those are in Florida, Delaware, up the East Coast. And they're the blue dots on the website. So those are specifically painting companies that specialize in coating coils for contractors, commercial use, that kind of thing.
How do you prevent solidification while storing the VR514 product?
So one of the natural things that happens with a air dry phenolic coating is it settles out quickly. So my first suggestion is to switch to Hair Shield WB506 because that doesn't happen with new technology paints. But what many of our applicators that use that or use it in the past is every month they would turn the 5-gallon pail upside down, and then the next month turn it back over again.
Do you see that same problem with Hair Shield, the solidification?
No. You need to stir that, but it's an acrylic coating and it stays in suspension. There's no problem with that. Also, there's no thinning that's needed. So it comes straight out of the can so you can spray it and it cleans up with soap and water rather than a solvent.
Dan, I didn't get in until part of your presentation. We had some linkage issues, and so thanks to your team, they got us in there. But you had mentioned something that you can't understand why we're having more corrosion. I came in late. Can you explain that?
Well, we're seeing from all over the world, applicators, OEM coil manufacturers are reaching out to us, and what we're seeing is there's corrosion is happening much quicker in the world. The US, we're seeing it, Southeast Asia, Europe, the Middle East. So there's something going on out there. We've done testing on jobs, trying to figure it out. We've talked to our competitors, people that don't use our coatings and use others. We don't know what it is. But as I said in the presentation, one engineer for a coil manufacturer said there's something has changed in the environment. So we've done all this testing, ambient air testing has been done. We don't have the resources, number one, but from our rudimentary or our basic testing, and we've sent some out, that kind of thing, we can't determine what's going on. So it's purely anecdotal. It's what we're seeing. It's an observation out there, but it's real. And it's driving changes in our industry.
Dan, can you briefly describe the curing time for Hereshield as well as the setting period on the coil?
So acrylic paints dry to the touch quickly, depending how much water you have in the air, which is
Tuck-free.
no. So the humidity, excuse me. So the humidity, so it dries to the touch quickly, although it takes 7 to 10 days for it to completely cure. So in handling the units, that kind of thing, you just got to be a little careful with that for the first week. But people put it in use in the first week. It really doesn't get a difficult environment over time. So in 7 to 10 days, it'll be totally cured.
Can you, does Hereshield have the same heat deception as like P413, the impact on heat performance?
Yeah, it's less than 1% impact on heat transfer. So it really doesn't impact it at all.
Can we expect to see any new products from Heresite in the future?
So for us to brag about performance, it takes a long time for that to happen. Like Hereshield, a lot of people are switching to now, but we started working on it 7 years ago, and we've had it in the field for 5 years. So what we're working on is a flow coat product that's high performance, water based. We've been working on it for a while. It's very challenging. In order to get something to flow coat in a water-based low VOC, you have to basically pull all the solids out of it, which really impacts performance. So we continue to work on that. So that's really what we've got going now. Also, we're evaluating a water-based P413 baked phenolic coating because that's the future. So those are the two projects we're working on. There are some other things in the works that aren't nearly as important as those two.
Great question so far. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to ask? Can acrylic paints be damaged by direct sunlight?
No, they do a great job in direct sunlight as opposed to a phenolic coating. It fades really quickly, but acrylics do really well in sunlight. That's why you see exterior, most of the house paints, most paints used outside, architectural coatings are water-based acrylic coatings. So it'll get dirty and it'll lose some of its sheen over the years, but not much. They look really good over time. Also, the color of the Hereshield product is this light gray color, and it really looks good with the AHU units that are out there now. They're painted a similar color, so it's really attractive when it's up on a roof. Any other questions? If you do, send me an email. You see my email address on there, or give me a call. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thanks everyone for taking the time today.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Jeff for hosting. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll probably come out with another one in a few months.
It was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right,
Dan.
everyone, that wraps
Cheers.
up the webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.